Letter 13 of a Lady's Life on a Farm in Manitoba, by Mrs. Cecil B. Hall. Read for LibriVox.org into the public domain. June 3rd. If you happen to know of anybody coming out here, and so many do, and if you would like to give A present, I wish you would kindly send him a few tablecloths, dusters, towels, and pairs of sheets. In short, any linen would be most acceptable, as we are so short. How these men managed when the linen went into Winnipeg to be washed, and was sometimes kept a month ere it came home, is a mystery. These extra men living in the house have none. They facetiously describe their ideas of dirt by saying, if the tablecloth, however filthy it might look, when flung against the wall didn't stick, it went on for another week. If it stuck, was then and there consigned to the dirty linen bag. Since we have been here we have instituted a weekly wash, every Monday and Tuesday. E. and Mrs. G. preside at the tub all day, and even then our sheets and towels often run short. Every colonist ought to provide himself with 2 pairs of sheets, half a dozen towels, 2 tablecloths, and a few dusters, and as those things and his wearing apparel, if in use 6 months previously, are allowed into the country free of duty, they might as well bring them over, as everything of that sort in Winnipeg is so fearfully dear, I do not like buying anything there. We sent for some unbleached calico the other day, worth 2d. halfpenny, was charged 12 cents or 6d. a yard. Besides the 4 yards of calico there were 10 of bed ticking, also 10 of American cloth, and the bill was $6.70, nearly 27 shillings. Everything is equally dear, the demand is so much greater than the supply. Beef is 10d. to 13d. a pound, mutton about the same, bacon 10d., pork 10d., chickens 4 and 2d. each. We use a good deal of tinned corned beef, and very good it is. It makes into such excellent hashes and curries, and is so good for breakfast. A. also wants a pair of long, porpoise-hide waterproof boots sending out. They are quite an essential, as after the heavy rains water stands inches deep in our yards, and he has so much walking into the marshes. In the spring, when the snow is melted, the sloughs, or mud holes along all the tracks and across the prairie, are so deep that horses and wagons are repeatedly stuck in them, and the men have to go in, often up to their waist, to help the poor animals out. The only way sometimes to get wagons out is to unhitch the horses, getting them onto firm ground, and by means of a long chain or ropes fastened to the poles, pull the wagons out, which as a rule have previously had to be unloaded. The clothes these men wear are indescribable. A. at the present moment is in a blue flannel shirt, a waistcoat, the back of which we are always threatening to renew. Inexpressibles sometimes spotty, darned, and torn, and thanks to 1 or 2 washings, have shrunk, displaying a pair of boots which have not seen a blackening brush since the day they left England. Coats are put on for meals, to do honour to the ladies, but seldom worn otherwise. The coarser and stronger the clothes are, the better. A.'s straw hat is also very lovely. It serves periodically for a mark to shoot at with the rifle on Sunday mornings, or when company come out from town. We both of us feel much like our old nurse when we are doing mendings, cutting up one set of old rags to patch another, but thanks to ammonia and hot irons, we flatter ourselves we make them almost look respectable again. There is a half-breed called L'Espérance, who lives about 8 miles from here, on the banks of the Assiniboine, and one of our neighbors telling us the other day he had several buffalo robes to sell, we drove over to inspect them, and saw some real beauties for $10 or $12. At the Hudson Bay stores in town they ask $16 for them. L'Espérance himself wasn't at home when we got there, but his wife, a fine, tall woman, speaking a peculiar French patois, showed us around, also the pemmican, which is buffalo meat pounded, dried, and pressed into bags of skins, it keeping good for years in that way. It looked nasty, but the children were chewing it apparently with great relish. Whilst in the shanty we heard a great noise, and running out, found our horse, which had either taken right or been stung by some fly, tearing past us with the buggy through the old lady's potato field into the bush. E. tore after it, and in a few hundred yards came up to the horse standing trembling, and gazing at the shattered remains of our poor vehicle. He had tried to turn the corner, when the whole thing capsized topsy-turvy, and he had almost freed himself of all the harness. Luckily he was considerate enough not to have given that one more struggle, which would have indeed settled the whole question, and obliged us to foot it on our 10 toes home. Curiously enough, the shafts were not broken, but the splinter bar was. There was quite a procession back to the shanty, the half-breed woman and one girl dragging the buggy, one child carrying the cushion, the other the whip and wraps, and E leading the horse. We set to work to make good the damage as best we could, with thin strips of buffalo hide, and started homewards, but without buying our robes, not daring to add to our weight. The men at the ferry boat gave us an extra binding up, and by going cautiously we got home, though we feared every moment would be our last, as regards driving, as the bound-up parts creaked most ominously all the way, and we fully expected at every rough bit to go in half. The horse is generally so quiet that we never mind where we leave him standing. I luckily have just given A new carriage, which will come in very handy. It is to be a democrat, double seats, and one long enough to be able to carry luggage. These small buggies are beautifully light, but will carry next to nothing, and we always have difficulty in accommodating all our parcels every time we come out of Winnipeg. End of Letter 13. Read by Sibella Denton. All LibriVox files are in the public domain. For more information, please visit LibriVox.org.